Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Cornelia Kish, and you're very welcome to our second Artist Roundtable, which is dealing with theater. My name is Cornelia Kish, and I work at Culture Action Europe, and we are leading the Culture and Health Platform, which is an EU-wide initiative. And together with me are esteemed speakers, Madeleine MATZER, Anna Formosa, and Alice Nightdriver, who will be sharing their experiences in this field. We will go to the introductions, I think, one by one later. But just give me a little 2-3 minutes, please, to explain what the Culture and Health Platform is and how come this Artist Roundtable is organized. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So we will start with giving an overview of the Culture and Health Platform, and thereafter, thereafter we will have the speakers from different areas of theater working in different ways present their work, and of course we will have some question and answer sessions. The purpose of this Artist Roundtable is actually to share with friends who work in the same area what are the best practices or what are the pitfalls and what our speakers would have liked to know before starting working in this culture and health area. I just want to quickly tell you that the Culture and Health Platform comes from the Culture for Health report, from the Culture and Health, Culture for Health project, which has a cultureforhealth.eu website and has quite an important Culture for Health report as part of an outcome of this project. And many of the recommendations that were in the Culture for Health report ended up to be kind of implemented by the Culture and Health Platform. It just started in 2024 November, and here you can see all the partners that are part of it. So it is really an EU-wide initiative. And even if your country is not in this map, don't worry, because we are supporting also artists who are not part of these countries, as long as they belong to a Creative Europe country. The platform's actions you can see here are listed. We provide financial support to projects, but projects of artists, so not organizations. Specifically, our target group are artists themselves. We have capacity building activities, artist shadowing and peer learning programs, a little bit this the peer learning part is definitely part of this Artist Roundtable. And basically what we are doing here now is this part. If you can see, it's providing networking opportunities and artist roundtables in order to support each other in this field, because we have seen that the area is very scattered. People don't know each other, and also there is a need to share best experiences with each other. And with this, I'd like to give to Madeleine Matzer the floor, because she will be presenting from the experience of from Netherlands. And please, Madeleine, also introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Cornelia. And well, happy to see you all and to meet you all. It's a very beautiful opportunity to meet people from other countries that do the same work. Well, my name is Madeleine Matzer. I'm a Dutch theater maker, Dutch theater director and playwright, and very recently retired from my former company, MATZER Theaterproductions. In this presentation, I will give a short summary of where we came from and where we are now, where the company is now. I'll show you some of, well, at least one of the plays we made at the intersection of health and culture. And I'm going to tell you something about the method that we developed during the last 7 years. This method, before that, that short summary, MATZER Theaterproductions is a professional organization. It's subsidized. We exist for 20 years now, and in the first 13 years, we produced, as every professional theater company, for theaters all over the Netherlands, in our case, and somewhere in that period, about 7 years ago, I lost my why. And that's when we decided to bring back theater in the middle of society, where it, in my opinion, belongs best. We do this by working together with theaters, companies, governments, institutions based on the content of our plays. Together with our partners, we reach a society-wide inclusive audience that has a connection with the subject of the performance and is directly affected by it. Our mission is MATZER produces, affects and impacts, and connects. Well, that's the short introduction. And now I'd like to start with a trailer of one of our plays, a play about dementia. Unfortunately, it's still in Dutch, but I hope you can get the atmosphere. When I'm with you, I'm all smiles. When I'm with you, everything's light. When I'm with you, when I'm with you, I'm alright. When I'm with you, my thoughts are free. When I'm with you, happy as can be. When I'm with you, when I'm with you, I forget the time. When I'm with you, when I'm with you, when I'm with you, when I'm with you. Thank you. Well, the sound was not really what it used to be, but it's okay. The play is called You Can Easily Tell Me a Secret, Tomorrow I Will Have Forgotten Anyway. And it's based upon the 14 years that my mother used to have Alzheimer. And actually, it's the play that I really wanted to have, to be able to see at the beginning of the process of my mother's dementia. Because not only for the patients themselves, but also for the people that are very nearby, those patients, it's a very difficult process, can be a very difficult process. And I guess that this play helps a lot of people to, well, to understand themselves better, give them compassion for themselves. And the target group of this play is not the people with dementia themselves, but is everyone that surrounds them. So it's for professionals, caregivers, healthcare institutions, local authorities, health insurers, students, but also very much relatives, relatives of people with dementia. It's also an autonomous play, so it's also good for people who normally go to theater and never have had any connection with dementia before. What was new for us is that at the end of every performance, we have a conversation with our public. And that conversation is part of the experience we want to give. Theater, as you all know, has the ability to bring people from the head to the heart. And those conversations are therefore very sincere, vulnerable, and there's a lot of recognition and new linkages arise. After that, we do impact research, and an example of that is shown now. Yes, that's also in Dutch. Unfortunately, the time was too short to translate it properly, but I will translate some things. Well, as you can see, 94% was very touched by the performance. 92% had a very big feeling of recognition. 72% experienced that there was more understanding in between families and healthcare professionals. A lot of people got much more tools for for the connection with their with those people. And well, for us, it's of course very impressive to discover how big the impact is. And how do we do this all? That's the next slide. We call that the MATZER method, because what of course changed is that we used to produce for theaters, and theaters are used to host plays. But when you're going to play for organizations, that's totally different cook. And there we experienced a lot of new outcomes, but also a very lot of pitfalls. And the outcome of that was this, and well, that's that MATZER method. And I'm going to translate some of the things in the block above, the pink block. That's the artistic part. And well, I could talk about an hour about that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell about the producing part. The brown block, it's about sales. Well, we kept on selling to theaters, but the relationship with theaters became different, and I tell that later. But we also started selling to organizations, and the way we did that is probably not new for a lot of you, but we got a very good salesperson, and she's very good in cold acquisition by LinkedIn. I totally admire her for that. She could also do a presentation about that because it's very impressive how she does that. And the tools we used for that, and what we discovered that was really working well, is we did a lot of online readings of the play text. And in those online readings, we invited a lot of possible stakeholders. And when they heard the text, they got a very much better image than when you only tell about it. And sometimes, and very often, even that led to selling the play. But what we also very often do is that we invite a lot of stakeholders at the first place, because seeing it is buying it is our experience. And well, it's amazing how much people, how big our lists are from yeah, plays that we can play everywhere. Well, then we go to the different with the theaters. No, go back to the slide, please. Yes, that's the blue block. Theaters, we give extra audience because we connect all kind of organizations in the region of the theater and bring all people there together. So most of the time, the theater already is filled with public before they even can sell. And they get very new public that sometimes never goes to theater. So that's for theaters also a very extra opportunity to host the play and to buy the play. And what we also sometimes do is there's an organization who says, oh, we're in this city, we would like to have 150 tickets. And then we call to a theater in that city and say, well, we have already sold 150 tickets. Would you like to host this play? And then the rest goes in free sale. But another story is, of course, the organizations. We sell it to them, and then we can do three things. We can play it in the house. I can also tell a lot about that, but I'm not going to do that, about how the change for the scenery and whatever. We do it on location, or we do it also in a theater. And one of the biggest pitfalls in the beginning was that we were so used to producing for theaters, that we were also used to the fact that theaters are, well, they have marketing people, they know how to invite, they know how to sell, they have a good ticketing system. And that's somewhere where we introduced the starting conversation with the organization. Every beginning is a beginning with a Zoom with the organization, the important people who organize it, and with some people of our organization from production, from marketing. And there we ask a lot of questions to them. What do you want to reach? What tools do you need? How can we help you? What audience do you want to reach? How are you going to do that? And they can ask their question, and we give them kind of a step-by-step timeline in which they can see what they can expect and how we're going to do that. After that, we send them a toolkit, and in that toolkit are again all those steps, but in that toolkit also is a lot of material. I'll show that after. And well, after that is of course the performance and the discussion. After that is the impact research, and after that the after sales. That's also very important. Could you show the next slide? Not this. Unfortunately, we don't have time for this. The next one, yeah, no, next. That's the toolkit, and you can scroll through that. Next page, you can see they get posters, they get the opportunity for personalized posters with their logo on it, with date and so ever. So they can work with that. Next slides. They get flyers. Next slides. They get a digital invitation, which we can personalize either, and all kind of material. Next slide. They get a digital invitation that we can also personalize for them. Campaign image, text modules that they can use, and banners for social media. And that's how we take them by the hand. And that's merely about the way of producing that was really new for us. About productions, I could tell a lot, but unfortunately, we don't have the time. So perhaps later in the breakout rooms. We also made a play about disabled children, or especially for parents and for healthcare professionals who are involved with those people. Well, a very big advantage of how MATZER works now is the inclusivity and the sustainability. The people who visit the performance are very often new public, not used to go to a theater. And it's very sustainable because all of these plays keep being played as long as needed. For instance, the play you saw before about dementia now already is playing for the 6th year, and successfully, because there's a lot of question for it. And well, then for the end, how I found my why back. Well, especially in the after talks, where people really meet each other from the heart, and where really magic finds place, because people find recognition. And yeah, that's where I find my why. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Madeleine, for this especially touching ending as well. I was wondering if there are some questions on the floor, just very quickly, or
maybe just from my side, Madeleine, wonderful work, by the way. Thank you very much for sharing. I was just wondering because there's actually so much need for caregivers. I was particularly focusing on caregivers because you hear so much that there is not really a supported system in the healthcare environment. Have you ever thought about, I don't know if there is a connection with physicians when they get actually caregivers there to kind of like it's prescription instead of medication, but for the caregivers where there is a knowledge or an advertisement of your play. Because I particularly think about so many caregivers that are struggling, and that would be a wonderful thing to do actually with the patients and this. I was just thinking how much of that connection is there already, or if we need to work more on the healthcare side for that.
Thank you for the question. Actually, we do. We also with the plays we give them afterwards the full text of the play, but we also give tools and tips for caregivers. We have a booklet, and they get it after the play, and in it are all kind of books, but also very how do you call that in English? Well, I don't know, but heartwarming tips and tools that they can use.
Thank you.
And there are a lot of new connections.
Arise.
Yes, arise.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, some people arrived at the not in the beginning, and really just the fact even that you have a discussion after the theater play, I think it gives so much to the people and really where they can really share their care experience. So I would like to go now further to Anna FAMOSA, who is joining us from Malta, or at least she's Maltese. Yeah, Anna, the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Cornelia. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm indeed in Malta. I'm an applied drama practitioner. So my journey, like Madeleine, started also 20 years ago. Before that, I was a performer. I was a theater performer, which led me to ask questions like, what are the benefits that come out of theater? So I went to study applied drama. As an applied drama practitioner, we do a lot of things. We work in schools, we work with different groups. We work in care settings. I've done like post-performance workshops for theater companies. But also I work with devised theater. Devised is my favorite method because I find that that's the participants have more ownership. Today I want to focus the presentation on the last play that I co-directed that took place last November. It was actually a play by Teatro Malta, which is the national theatre company. They have a beautiful project called Kazin Sittin. Kazin means a club in Maltese, and Sittin means 60, so it's kind of a beautiful, beautiful terminology. It all started a while back because I'm also a pharmacist. Normally people tell me how do you do these things for chats, basically. And I went across to the local council and I asked them if I can do a project for them. So we started, and it started doing well. It rolled into like a 3 or 4 year project with different funding, which also had a device play. And from that group, they suggested that I do an intergenerational project, which rolled into another 4 or 5 year intergenerational project. We had 18 projects across Malta and Gozo. It was very big. It was for Valletta 18, which was at the time, Valletta 18 was European City of Culture. And Sean from Teatro Malta came to me and said, I love your work. We need to talk. So I used to go to his office and we used to kind of come up with ideas, but kind of none of them stuck until one day he said, I'd like to do a play, a panto for people who are 60 plus. And I thought that was a fantastic idea. So we started looking at all the directors and musical directors and actors who are 60 plus, but we also wanted to have an element of community. So we did. And I'm going to show you a little piece. So over to you, Marie, so that we can show this.
Alice Brett, Maria Scudery,
Christian Mifsud,
Rita Chantar,
Shia,
Sheha,
Shia.
Sheha.
Shia.
فيلا عندي 65 سنة بارمن وكاميليري 67 سنة الدرامر البيبي Israel 67 accompagnatrici Maria Spiteri 75 سنة زفينة
Christian Mifsud, بالبيناتس 62 سنة ستيج مانجر
ريتا شانتاي 62 سنة بروبس مانجر
Thank you, Marie. I'm going to share a presentation from my end. Okay, so moving on after that experience, a lot of people were really interested in continuing to do this kind of work. So Teatro Malta decided to collaborate with the active aging department. And in the first years, they started to do like bi-monthly exploratory sessions where they would do things like improvisations, moving, vocal techniques, poetry. They used to explore a lot of things. The interest started to grow, and in 2023, they had two groups and they had two different plays. And it culminated in a theater evening at San Vincenzo, which is one of, they've got a beautiful theater there, but San Vincenzo is a hospital care home in Malta. It has many people. And this event, apart from the plays, it also had like coffees and games, gift swapping, but also music by the late Sammy Murgo, who was a very well-known jazz pioneer and saxophonist in Malta. In 2024, they decided to grow the project and they decided to have 6 different groups geographically located across Malta and Gozo. You can see there the photos from all 6 plays. I partly live between Malta and Belgium, so in order for me to be able to do this, I collaborated with one of my close friends. So there was 2 of us, but also our assistant stage manager. He's a playwright as well, so he was very involved. Our play is the one at the bottom in the middle. And what happened here is there was a call for participants in around March, April. Then in May and June, we started these exploratory sessions. In the summer, we had a break. Malta is very hot in the summer, so we prefer not to have certain things like this. But the directors and the producers were very busy because we were choosing the plays. Teatro Malta wanted to bring back old Maltese farce. So there was a call for plays and the directors were involved in choosing and and adapting for our groups, etc. And then come September, we started working on our plays. At the end of November, then we had the performances. It was like over a whole weekend. And yes, it was a very beautiful thing. So the participants were from the community. However, the supporters, like the theater directors As you can see, the staging and the props and everything else were from professional theater makers. We wanted to have a bit of a questionnaire. I asked Sean, like, can we have this questionnaire, because I would like to see what was the experience of participants. So we did have people who are over 80. Two were actually in my group, and they were very, very energetic and lovely. But most of the people in the group were between the ages of 60 and 70. I also wanted to know if it was their first theater experience or whether this project managed to bring a lot. And for some, it was their very first theater experiences. I also wanted to find out if they were involved in other creative activities, and most of whom were involved in creative activities. Some were actually their professional work, and some did guitar playing or thing like lace making, for example. But the majority of the parts were either part of a singing group, painting group, writing, or dancing. This question was important to me because later on there's a study, I will focus on it, that says that the more a person engages and participates in a creative activity, the better the health benefits. So the majority of people were either between once a week or some of them did more than once a week, which is very good. In this kind of work, we'd also like to engage people who do not normally get involved in social groups. We want them to come and be involved in things. And the majority of people, this was their first social groups. But people who were involved in social groups, they had very diverse. They either were involved in prayer groups or sport and fitness groups, and some of them were in various other kind of social groups. Would they attend again next year? A lot. It's very, very intense. So some of them had a bit of a hesitation, but if they would recommend the project to others, it was a unanimous yes from all the participants. I didn't mention that we had 76 participants and 43 of them answered the questionnaire. This particular question for me was one of the most important ones because I wanted to understand what kind of benefits they got apart from being on stage and being part of all that. So I gave them a list of questions, and there was a range between low and high. As you can see, all the questions are in purple, so they replied high. And the questions were between if they always wanted to perform, if they enjoyed themselves, if they love being part of a group, if they found it challenging and if that was good for them, which was great. They made new friends, and it was also not easy, but they continued, they finished. And for me, one of the questions was I wanted to understand if it helped their moods. It was a bit varied, as you can see. It wasn't as clear-cut, very high as the others, which means that a lot of them already had good moods as well. So, or they couldn't pinpoint exactly from that. Of course, we wanted to find out what we can improve. And to these questions, a lot of people wanted things to stay the same. They didn't want to change venues. They didn't want less challenging plays. They didn't want to just have exploratory sessions. They did want to play. They did not want to have children or other adults involved, which was a bit surprising for me, but that's good. The only thing that they did want to have more with a clear yes was to be doing other things with the group. For example, it's not clear there, but things like going to a play, going to watch plays together, or going to museums together, do cultural activities together. So that is something I think for Teatro Malta to think about moving on from this. What does literature say, and what was their comments? Because we also asked for them to give their comments. So in the literature, we have things like we understand that we spark imagination through theater, we have creativity, and we boost confidence and engage the mind, give a sense of well-being, have a connection. It's challenging, it's transformative, and it's nurturing, and we feel useful to society. And this was actually reflected in their comments as well, the ones that are in the blue in the middle. So They did have challenging experiences and they improved their confidence. They felt that it was good for their bodies and minds. And important for me is laughter. They used to have a lot of fun and a great experience for them. I must add that it was also a great experience for us. All of the directors and our assistant stage manager who was with us throughout the whole process, we did feel also this benefit to us. So it's not just the participants. I mentioned some studies, and I just want to home in a little bit on this. So basically, in 2013, there was this particular study where one of the groups was taught by a professional actor for 4 weeks, and they found that there was a significant increase in memory, comprehension, creativity, and problem-solving ability in this group. In another study, they looked at participants who were involved in an acting group, a singing group, and people who are still on the waiting list. And they found that in the acting group, there was a significant increase in word recall, immediate and delayed story recall, and problem solving and verbal fluency. There's also this very famous study that came out very recently in 2023 from UCL, the university in England. And in general, they found that participation in the arts results in people having a very meaningful older age. And it's associated with a wide-ranging benefits as well. For me as a pharmacist, I love it. It's very important. It lowers levels of obesity, lower depressive symptoms, fewer limiting long-standing illnesses and chronic diseases, overall improved well-being. In another study, they looked at the frequency. So if people attend on a weekly basis, they found that it's better than if they attend on a monthly basis, for example. And they had, as you can see there, 32% lower odds of developing depression if people engaged every few months, and 48% lower odds if they engaged monthly. So yes, that comes to the end of my presentation. And I hope that was useful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I was wondering if anybody would like to ask some questions to Anna now. No, in that case, we would go over to Alice Knight Driver, who is working with a very specific group, but I let her tell you about that.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so I'm Alice. Hello. Nice to meet you all. And so a little bit of background about myself. I was a theatre producer in the West End in London. So I worked on the big shows and did everything that a theatre producer does there. And then I wanted to do good. And so I decided to work with the Ministry of Defence, so the British military, and use theatre for recovery. And I've been doing that now for 15 years. We mainly work with the armed forces community. We're still delivering work for the Ministry of Defence, and we deliver work for military charities as well. And when I was asked to do this, I love the fact that this is about me looking back from when I first started. What do I wish I had known? So I know that you're all artists. I'm not going to talk about the sort of creative side. I'm not really focusing on the theatre production side, but these are all the things that I would have really liked to have known. Just for context, if we look at the first slide, this is the type of work we do. So our cast is made up of our participants. So this is the armed forces community, and we might have people who are amputees, have anxiety, have depression, have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or have sort of sicknesses that we all get, cancer, multiple sclerosis, all sorts. So the only sort of common factor is the community group they're in. So we do group productions where participants share their stories, a writer creates a script, they rehearse it, and then they perform it. I've probably done about sort of 8 of these over the years. We've toured, they've ranged in scale from performing at a, local theatre to touring around the UK, taking it to Canada, the Australians doing their own version, and a BBC One documentary. We've had sellout shows. We've also had shows where like 2 people have turned up in the audience. So we've had a real range. We also do, the other thing we do is personal storytelling, where we get individuals to put together their own personal story, normally of recovery, and creating a 10 to 15 minute story. And they come and do an immersive 5-day storytelling session with our theatre directors, professional storytellers. And then they take those stories and either share it with family members who maybe don't know what's happened to them, or they take it into schools or businesses. So hopefully that sort of just gives you an idea of what we do. Some of the stuff that I might talk about might not be relevant at all, but I will carry on. So the first thing that I thought was really useful is just on the recruitment side and legitimacy. So when I first started working with this group, like theatre wasn't cool at all. It was all the typical stereotypes you think about theatre. Oh, you're just going to stand up and pretend to be trees. No. So it's about cutting through the noise. And I personally used a very well-known celebrity, and I've used different celebrities along the way, just to cut through that noise and sell this in. What that's also helped is, as well as getting participants to join, when it comes to selling tickets, you also can get coverage, because people will be like, yeah, we'll put a piece in our paper, but can we speak to your celebrity? It's not always possible, but it's something to think about. And I think, there is so much data out there about the legitimacy of what we do. This work is powerful, it is transformative. And, if someone I have so much data ready just to kind of throw it in someone's face if they're being negative about, oh, it's just theatre. So those are my first points. So the next slide. Having worked with like professional actors and some quite big egos, I sort of thought I'd be quite good at working with participants. But actually, one of the main things that I learned is about what are your values? What is important to you right at the start? So we sort of talk about respect, self-care, confidentiality, commitment. But so what? What does that actually mean when you're in the room? And so those values should essentially put together some guidelines that everyone signs up to. So when we talk about self-care, we mean you don't come in being drunk, you don't take recreational drugs, you shower, you eat properly. And if people don't do that, then they could be asked to leave the project. Again, the respect thing, what do we mean by that? Someone bantering about women, about racism, it's not acceptable. And all of that, right at the start, we get our participants to sign up to. So if something does go wrong, you can say, remember, you signed up to that. And we've had all sorts of stories across the years when we've had issues. So I put there, have clear procedures for crisis, e.g., if someone decides to shout across the room at someone because they're really annoyed, if someone decides to hit someone, if they're triggered and have a post-traumatic sort of stress disorder episode, what are you doing as a group if this happens? So you've already spoken about it before it happens in the room and you're not sure. So the next one, I appreciate I'm going through this quite quickly, but again, on onboarding, we call it when participants, we get our group, who is in that room? We ask them to fill in an about you form because we want to find out about them. What are their triggers? Why have they signed up? And that information we will then use to mitigate, to lower the risk in the rehearsal space. So if we know this guy here, if he gets overwhelmed, he gets angry, we can know and we can spot that and we can say, hey, John, do you want to go and chill out in that room over there? And it's all just okay and it's accepted. So it's really learning about your member. The next one, yes. Again, we all know at the end of a performance, you have that post-performance slump, whether you're a professional or not. But for those who are incredibly vulnerable, it can be worse. So right for the start, saying to people, it's sad when it ends. So putting goal setting, what do you want to achieve, and making sure you have those reflection sessions at the end so people really know what they've achieved personally. But the group is saying, I think you nailed that. You've done amazingly. And we have structured follow-ups at the end of the project. So we can also pick up if anyone is actually in a really dark place and needs to be signposted to mental health support. Next one. This was a massive thing for me. I ended up getting secondary trauma because I was just trying to help everyone. I'm not a therapist. What's my job description? What are my boundaries? And what am I responsible for? So we used a mental health and still do professional to debrief, advise. We've had to deal with all sorts. I think the most challenging was when someone was sort of suicidal, and knowing that I could go to bed at night, and if the worst happened, I had done everything that I was supposed to do. And also making sure the participant understands this isn't therapy. It has therapeutic consequences, but it's a theatre production. Next one. This is a really interesting one, which we learned the hard way. For anyone who is doing scripts based on personal stories. So firstly, the person giving that stories, just make sure that it's actually their story that they're sharing. And get them to sign a form to say, this is my story, I give it to you. But also, if further down the line they want that story taken out of the script, they have the choice of doing that. It could be the case that maybe they're having a sort of depressive episode a month down the line and they don't want their story being shared again, and they have to have the choice to take it out. And this other one, I'd be really interested if anyone else has had this experience. The writer writing that script, we now in their contract put in a clause to say you can only use this script again with the participant's permission. Because we had a situation where someone did not have the permission, they renamed the script and just took it elsewhere. Okay, next one. I've got 2 more slides. Oh, this is my last slide. So expect the dramas. You can plan, you can prep, you can know your people and who are arriving. And then suddenly in that room, there is going to be something that happens that you had no idea about. And I put there, be ready to respond ethically and practically. You're dealing with people, and sometimes it would be nicer to deal with numbers because you could just put them in a spreadsheet and they won't talk back. But yeah, this work is brilliant. I love it, but it also can be very stressful and overwhelming. And these points here that I've sort of thought about have really, I wish I had known when I started. So those are kind of my main points.
Thank you so much, Alice. Really remarkable. I'm wondering if somebody has some questions to Alice. If not, I have. Oh yeah, Anna, great.
Yeah. for me, a beautiful work, by the way. I loved your presentation. It's amazing work that you do. Can I just ask, how do you manage to get funded?
So we get funding from the charities.
Right.
They give us grants, or we get funding from the Ministry of Defence. We also get some of our speakers who we've trained up are amazing. And so we sell them into corporates. And so the speaker gets a really good fee. And then we're able to use the sort of profit, and then we can help fund us as well. Or we just do straight sort of, we use our theatre directors and storytellers and put them into corporate businesses and to deliver corporate training. And then again, we use the profit to run the sort of stuff that we really want to do.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, again, I mean, maybe, I mean, Alice has said it, just to also imagine this, that many of these people are in wheelchair, don't have a leg or an arm or whatever, and a story of how they got out of that situation is, of course, also very inspirational, maybe for, businesses, of how people were standing up from that situation. Victoria, I see your hands up. Thanks for putting your camera on.
Hello. Alice, I really resonate, everything that you were saying about what you'd learned really resonated with me. I work largely with vulnerable young people in Southeast London, and a lot and very different levels of trauma, although sometimes not different because they're have experienced attacks and things like that. And I guess I imagine there's you talked about lowering the risk, but there's quite a high level of risk there of being triggered. And I wonder if you ever, or how you manage you talked a little bit about this, the balance of people's personal stories with fictionalizing that to keep people safe in the room. I often work with, I ask people not to give their personal stories, and we work entirely in the fiction. And I wonder, does that come into your work at all, or is it always looking very specifically at their personal stories?
We normally just do personal stories. If we're doing script work, it might be the case that to make it sort of more dramatic, it's not verbatim, because that can be quite boring. So it's also about getting the artistic, our audience is going to want this, as well as getting the truth there. In the sort of individual storytelling, they use their own story. But what I haven't spoken about is, even when someone joins up, when we ask them to do that About You form, that's been put together by a psychologist, and then we RAG rate it, red, amber, green. And so sometimes we might actually say to someone, you know what, we'd love to have you, but we don't think you're ready to do this yet. And it's actually knowing that we can say no to participants because it's the right thing for them and for the right thing for everyone in the room is hugely empowering. So, and I think it's about setting up the ground rules. These are your stories, only share what you want to share. And no one has permission to take anyone else's story and share it outside this group. So it's giving that control to the individual. And obviously we're dealing with adults, so it's different to young people. But yeah, it can be, I think it's all about how you set it up. But lots of the guys who we work with, actually their trauma comes from when they were younger. And actually the fact that they might have been blown up and lost their leg, that isn't their issue. It might be the case that, they lost their dad when they were younger, or their parents split up, or whatever it is. That's what they really want to talk about. Hey, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It's really interesting.
Edita?
Yes, thank you. Alice, I have a question about your cooperation with the Ministry of Defense. How did you convince them to support you? And you were the first one maybe to propose something like this, or there is more initiatives like you do, and it's obvious for them, to support it.
I would say it's not obvious. They're very much the people who, when I first went to them, said it was airy fairy therapy shit. So that was good. And that's why I got the celebrity involved. And it was all about risk and reputation. So all the data that is produced, we don't really, we've got evaluations, but, the World Health Organization research paper, all of these, everything that, Culture Europe does, we use all of that. And it's literally just throwing it in their face because there's so many people who just don't believe in what we do. They don't get it. So how can you just overwhelm someone with data? So even 15 years later, I had someone from the MOD basically go, oh yeah, I'm not really sure, if this is right. I'm not really sure. And you're just like, so then I put a paper together just to send it to them, just to go, this works. So it kind of feels quite frustrating sometimes when you've even got participants saying this is transformational, it's great. But you've just got to keep just showing that you're really professional, you're legitimate, and it works. So yeah, it's not an easy job, but yeah.
But celebrities, they are from theater, so
Yeah,
well known.
theatre and film. Yeah.
Okay.
So for us, it was sort of, we use Ray Winstone, and he's really well known in the military. So he does he's a bit of a Cockney geezer, and everyone loves him, who's, it's a massive stereotype. But we've Joanna Lumley, she's a real supporter of the military. We've had lots of people who it makes them feel good. So it's worth just putting in the ask.
Thank
Finding
you.
who their agent is and just saying, would you be interested?
Mm-hmm.
And we've never paid for any celebrity. And if a celebrity asks to be paid, we say no.
Anna, very quick question. Then we would like to go to the breakout rooms so everyone can share their stories.
Yes. You might have mentioned, did you ever work with psychologists, or do you feel the need to bring them in? You did mention.
Yeah. So we have a clinical psychologist who oversees our work. And he's worked with me to put together like the framework that our projects sit within. And then he supervises us. And so in a project, he will be available if there is an issue. Although now we're at the stage where we're sort of 15 years down the line where we can manage quite a lot of it ourselves, but we're still there at maybe even just to go, you know what, this didn't go very well. How could I have done it better?
Thank you.
Adita, you have your hands up again? No. Okay, great. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone, and also for the questions. According to the format, we also want to give a possibility for smaller discussions in between the participants, and also the ones who have been listening now, also give them the floor a little bit of what they are experiencing. And I'm going to share my screen to bring you through what's going to happen now. So the purpose of we will go into breakout rooms, and I think we will go into 2 breakout rooms, 5 and 5, 10 and 10, let's say. And we will try to really just very freely exchange, learn from each other, and provide advice for each other. We will, of course, have our speakers joining each room as well. And the procedure would be to give a round of introductions, say your name, country of the residence, what you do. And then really it's a free flow, get it out discussion among friends in a cafe. But if you need some guiding questions, the questions would be, what do you think is key working in arts and health? Have you encountered any pitfalls? Do you have any advice for others? Or is there anything else that you would like to share? So I would say we now directly go to